Well, hey, welcome to everybody joining us tonight for our Snorkl webinar, Dive into Snorkl for Student Learning. I'm so excited to be learning with you guys here tonight. A little bit of housekeeping while we get started here. So first of all, I want to say thanks to everybody who's already saying hi in the chat. Please continue to do that. If you want to introduce yourself and say where you're from, that is fantastic. That's a great way to see the folks that are with us here tonight. And all throughout our webinar, please use the chat. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if there's anything that you would like us to address, please drop that in there. I'm seeing we've got Virginia, we've got New Jersey, more and more people saying hi in the chat. That is fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being here with us tonight. So I'm going to start off while you guys are introducing yourselves in the chat. I'm going to introduce myself real quick. So hi, everybody. My name is Eric. I am an educator in Northeast Ohio. This is my 34th year in education. I have been doing this a very long time. I started off as a middle school math teacher and then moved into a role as an ed tech coach. And so that's what I do. I work at a regional service center up here in Northeast Ohio, supporting about 40 school districts. That's my day job. And then on the side, I travel all around the country, all around the world, actually, working with schools and organizations and conferences, providing workshops and trainings and keynotes and all kinds of things like that. I do run a website called Control Alt Achieve. You see that up on the screen there. I'll pop that site open here real quick. This is where I share out all my stuff. So everything, anything I create, it's there, and it's all freely available. There's no paywalls or anything like that. All of my resources are there on the site. I would encourage you, when you get some time, check it out. Tell you what, I'll drop the link into the chat if that's easier for some folks to be able to just click on that real quick. But on that site, you're going to find all of my webinars and my resource documents, my slideshows, my projects, all sorts of great stuff. There's a tab specifically for AI on the site where I share loads of things like all of my resource documents and videos and blog posts and so forth. And actually, Control Alt Achieve almost 2 years ago was where I first shared out Snorkl. Yeah. Back December 13th of 2023, when I was doing my cool tools, my cool tool wrap up for that year, I gave a shout out to Snorkl, and I have been absolutely in love with this tool ever since, and been sharing it out over and over and over again in trainings that I do for so many reasons. But nevertheless, I would encourage you, check out the blog. Probably the easiest thing to do, honestly, because I know life is busy and it's like, Eric, that looks cool, but I'm not going to remember to go back to it. Pop over there once and just go to the newsletter tab and just sign up for the newsletter. That's honestly the easiest thing to do. That way you get a once a week email from me saying, hey, here's the new stuff on the website, and here's some cool things I came across recently. That way you don't have to go to the website comes to you. That's probably the easiest way to do it. So anyway, that's me real quick, but I'm not the only one here tonight. I have John and Megan here as well. So John, why don't you go ahead and say hi real quick and introduce yourself to the folks.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Super excited to be here. My name is John Lavin. I'm one of the co-founders of Snorkl. I was a high school math teacher prior to starting Snorkl a few years ago. And we just get really excited about capturing student thinking in really rich ways, and capturing all that our students are able to share and explain. And excited to share it with more teachers and coaches and everyone who's joining us this evening and or watching this afterwards. So thanks for jumping in.
All right. And Megan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Mitchell. I am a 6th grade teacher, multiple subjects, but I have taught 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. This is my 15th year as an educator, and I am coming from kind of sunny. I saw somebody was kind of trolling in the chat because I'm in Southern California, so it is chilly for California, but it's definitely not going to match up to snowy Massachusetts. And I am a Snorkl super fan and love working with the community at Snorkl.
Oh, well, so I am so glad to have both John and Megan with us tonight. John will probably be kind of hanging in the background since he knows all the answers. As things come in, as far as questions, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. He may be going ahead and answering some of those right there in the chat. And then Megan is going to be sharing, all throughout the session, popping in, John and she can both do that. But especially the second half, she's going to be talking more about what it's really like to use this in the classroom. I'm going to do some general explanation and demonstrations, but she's doing this day in and day out. And so she'll be sharing that a little bit later on in the session. And again, thanks to everybody saying hi. We've got Kentucky, Ohio, California, Indiana, Massachusetts, so many people saying hi. That is fantastic. Yes, it is snowy here. I was snow blowing this morning. So yes, it is quite snowy here in Ohio, where I am at. Okay, well, with all of that said, we're going to disappear off the side of the screen so you guys can just focus on what's on the screen here. So we'll pop back up in a little bit. But what we want to do is kick this off with a little explanation about what Snorkl is, and then get into it, start using this tool. So to start off with, what I'd like to do is chat very briefly about AI grading and feedback, because that ties into where we're headed with Snorkl. So here's the idea. We already have a lot of great AI tools out there. We are very fortunate, we really are, that there's a lot of great AI tools out there that can assist with providing feedback on student work. So that's great. I share lots of such tools. However, many of them tend to just focus on written work, which makes sense. I understand that. That's a very common thing. Students are writing essays or papers or things like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's already digital. they're typing things up. So you just, take what they've typed and the AI processes it. That makes a lot of sense. I totally do understand that. But what about other ways of students expressing themselves? It's not always just typed up responses. There's other ways that students can share their understanding. How about, for example, spoken responses? What about handwritten answers? What about handwritten math problems? How about drawn diagrams? How about screen recordings? All of these options, these are very valuable ways for a student to be able to express themselves. Now, I mentioned I was a math teacher. I taught eighth grade math. And so, for example, having handwritten math problems, that's great to have, like, the answer to a problem, but to actually see it all written out, that tells me so much more than just the answer. But in addition to that, to have a student be able to speak and explain all the steps as they're working out the handwritten math problem, that's phenomenal. Like, I think I have said many times, I would much rather have a student, solve one or two problems where they work it out and explain it step by step than just give me a worksheet with 20 problems with the answers. I can learn so much more from that. And I think most of us would agree that these are very valuable ways for a student to express themselves, putting things in their own words, drawing diagrams, sharing their screen. Not only does it help us understand what the student does and doesn't know, but it also helps address the concerns about cheating and using maybe AI to do your work for you. If we have a student put things in their own words, in addition to what they've typed, to also go in and explain in their own words their understanding, that helps. It moves us in a positive direction to being like, okay, the student really does understand this, or they don't understand this. Now, I think we would all agree that, yeah, that's valuable. This is really good. But, and there's always a but, it's very time intensive, isn't it? You say, Eric, listen, I get you, buddy. I'd love to do that. Absolutely. I would love to have every student of mine, when they turn in a paper or something, to also record, a 2-minute summary in their own words. Or when they're doing, math problems, I want them to record themselves, solving the math problem or working out something in science or whatever the case might be. But buddy, you don't understand. I got 125 kids. and if they record 2 minutes apiece, that's 4 hours. I don't have 4 hours to listen to these recordings. It's valuable. I think it's great, but it's just not practical. Well, here's the good news, guys. That's where Snorkl comes in. Okay, so Snorkl is the tool you've been looking for. This is what you're looking for. Snorkl is an AI powered tool that allows students to record their reasoning, to record their answers, their explanation, their thinking, their reasoning with both verbal and visual explanations. And then Snorkl does that first pass on there and provides AI powered feedback on what the students have written, or what they have said or drawn or handwritten, whatever the case might be. Now, we're going to get into a lot of details on Snorkl throughout the session, but let me just hit a couple of quick highlights for you, just so you have these as sort of advanced organizers as we head into this. So as we said, first of all, there's multiple ways students can explain their understanding. They can record their voice. They can also record their screen while they record the voice, or they can also use a whiteboard, and that whiteboard allows them to handwrite. It allows them to draw, to diagram, and of course, they can record their voice while they're using the whiteboard. But hey, if you do want them to write, they also can use a rich text editor. So basically, all of these different modalities can be used. Now, another thing that I want to mention really quick up front is this can be done at any grade level. I know I've used math as an example a couple of times here, but no. Any grade level, any subject area, from kindergarten through college. When you are setting up a problem, you can choose any of these grade levels and any of these subject areas. So math, science, world language, language arts, social studies, or just general. And not only that, but multiple languages, up to 40 different languages are supported with Snorkl as well. So this is going to be applicable to any classroom. Now, when it comes to creating the activities, absolutely, you can create your own. We will do so. I will create one from scratch here during the session, but you also don't have to. You can choose from an amazing Snorkl library with just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pre-made activities in all of these different areas, which is fantastic as well. And of course, I know this question always comes up, so we're going to get it out of the way right now, right up front. Snorkl has an incredibly robust free version. Anybody that knows me knows I only share tools that provide a robust free version. It needs to be something that people can use. But yeah, I totally understand having a paid version. I want these companies to do well. I want them to succeed and keep creating good things. So that's great. But we need to have a good free version as well. And Snorkl does. You can create unlimited classes with the free version. You can have up to 20 active activities. That is phenomenal. You can add co-teachers. Of course, you get the AI feedback that Snorkl is providing. You have access to that amazing Snorkl library of pre-made activities, and you get insights. We'll see all of this once we get into this. You get all these amazing insights that show you what your students know, what they don't know, what are they struggling with as well. Now, yes, there is a premium version. It does have access to the Snorkl coach, which can assist the student while they're doing their activity, not do the work for them, but just assist them, as well as a school-wide dashboard and a shared school library. All right, so I think that's it. I think that gets us where we need to be. That's the big picture. Time to actually get in and start using this. So I'm going to pop on over to the Snorkl website, which is snorkl.app. This is what the site looks like, and I'll go ahead and copy and paste that link into the chat as well, if that's easier for some folks, just to give a click on there. So this is the Snorkl website. I would encourage you absolutely to sign up for this and try out some of these things while we are going through this here today. I already, of course, am signed in. So here I am signed into my Snorkl account. And for our kickoff here to get started, I actually have pulled up one of my activities that I've got set up here. Now, this particular activity is a math activity, but again, it does not have to. This one's going to be math. We'll do a science one later. Megan's going to share all sorts of different ones as well. So nevertheless, though, this one is a math one. And I'm going to start off with this. And I'm going to pretend that I'm a student who's completing this. So we're kind of going to go backwards here. We're going to start with the finished product. It's kind of like if this was a cooking show. I'm showing you, here's what the cake is going to look like at the end. I'm showing you the finished dish. And then we're going to go back and say, how did you make that? So we're going to start by pretending I'm a student. I'm going to go through this activity, show you what it looks like from the student's point of view. Then we'll go in and show you how a teacher creates these things. So for my particular one, it's a pretty straightforward question. It's a perimeter problem question. This would be, in this case, I think I got the set as upper elementary for this one, where we've got the perimeter, we've got the length, but we don't know the width. All right, so the point is I've got this activity set up. I'm going to click on the share button to get the link to the activity. And you know what? You guys are absolutely welcome to try this out as well. I'm going to copy that link there. I'll put it in the chat. If you want to try it out as well, you are absolutely welcome to do the same. But I'm going to copy that link, and I am going to grab my pretend student account here. So here's my pretend student account I'm bringing over here, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see that a little bit better. And on this demo student account, here is that particular activity that I'm going to complete. All right, so let's go ahead and click on Start Response. And this is going to bring me into the student view of this. So it's basically explaining this is a whiteboard recording activity. I can draw, I can type, I can upload images, I can speak to record my response. And of course, I'm going to get instant feedback as well. So let's hit Let's Go. So at this point, I'm going to click on Record Screen and Voice at the bottom, and that will then record everything I say as well as everything that I do on the screen. So just so you know, across the top before I start, here are some of the key buttons. There's, of course, the drawing options, and this is great. The students can change colors. They don't have to just draw in black. I mean, they could be doing something where it makes sense to draw in multiple colors to emphasize different things that they are drawing. Of course, we can change the size of that as well. There's also a highlighting feature here, very similar. We've got a spot here where I can just sort of highlight something like this, and then it goes away afterwards. That's like the laser pointer option. There's an eraser. There's a text box here. There's a math equation button. There's a shapes section I can grab shapes out of. Here's a spot where I can generate or draw lines. And of course, I can upload images as well. So lots and lots of great options there. Well, let's go ahead and pretend I'm a student now. Now, heads up, I'm gonna make a mistake. Just so you know, I'm not gonna do this problem completely accurately because I want to show you what happens when that is the case there. Okay, so let's give it a shot. Got to give it permission here. All right, so I need to solve this problem where I need to find the width. So I'm trying to find the width of the frame, and I've been told that the frame is a quadrilateral. I've been told the perimeter is 146, and I've been told that the length is 29. So I'm going to start by drawing a picture of my my rectangle. So I'll just draw out my rectangle here. There it is. And then I'm going to put in what I know. So I know it's a rectangle. I know it's got a length of 29. So I'll put 29 on this side, and I'll put 29 on this side. Okay, so I know that. I don't know the width. That's the thing we don't know. So that's sort of the question mark there. And then I do know the perimeter though. So all the way around this, the entire way around it, that is all going to add up to be 146. All right, there we go. So I just got to find this missing part here. So probably would make sense to do this. Let's add up what we already know. So I've got a 29 and I've got a 29. And I'm going to add those two together because that's what I've already got here so far. So let's see, 9 and 9 is 18. Then we got 2 and 2 is 4. Okay, so we got 48 for what we know already. That would be those two pieces. But then it's 146 all the way around. So if I take 146, the entire perimeter, and I subtract what we already know, take off the 48 that we've already got, let's see what we get left with. So that would be 18. And then, of course, I borrowed there. So let's see. It's going to give me 40. No, 98. Okay, so I've got 98. So now that's what's left over. Okay, well, that's got to get split between both of these pieces here. So I need to take the 98. I need to divide that by 2. So let's see. That's going to give me 4, and that's 18. So that's 9. So 49. All right. So I think that would be it. So that would mean 49 would be my missing width for this particular problem. I guess I could label that 49 centimeters. But there we go. All right. So there is my answer to the problem. All right. Now at this point, now I obviously, and I did make, as I mentioned, I made an intentional math error there in my addition. I did not carry properly in my addition there. So hopefully it's going to catch that. Yes, somebody was like mentioning that in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. That was intentional. We wanted to see how Snorkl responds when a student makes a mistake. Now at this point, I could play this back and then I could listen to the whole thing as a student. So I'll just play a little bit back. All right, so I need to solve this problem where I need to, and so I could play the whole thing back, listen to it, make sure that it's good. And of course, here I'll show you. Yeah, actually, you can see me drawing here. I'll find the width. So I'm trying to find the width of the frame. And I've been told that the frame is a quadrilateral. I've been told the perimeter is 146. Okay, so you can see all of that. So basically, I could now play this back, and if I decided, you know what, I don't like my explanation, I could hit cancel and redo. I could continue recording. You know what? I think it's good. I think we're in good shape. So I'm going to hit submit, and that's it. It's uploading all of that into Snorkl. So that's it. That's all the student has to do. As simple as that. They've been able to use their voice. They've been able to draw. They've been able to handwrite. I could have used some of the other features there, adding shapes. I could have used the typing option to type directly in as well. So what's going on now is Snorkl is now taking what I just recorded and everything that I said, everything that I drew, and is generating feedback based upon what the teacher set up. So my original problem, the way I set up, I gave it some guidance there. And let's see how we did. All right, it looks like we got this incorrect, which I'm not surprised. So it does say we got it incorrect, but I love this here, the explanation. I got a 3 out of 4. Now, that's really interesting. A lot of times we're just used to it's right or it's wrong, and that's it. Well, no, it's more nuanced than that. You can get the problem wrong and really know what you're doing, and you just made a small mistake. You can get the problem right and have no idea what you're talking about, and you just got lucky. And it's good for it to be able to catch that. So it's saying, hey, you got a 3 out of 4 in your explanation, but this is great. This is great. Can you double check your addition here? 29 plus 29. Look at that step again and check that out. And so that's where I made my mistake. It was able to catch that. So now, of course, the student could respond again. They could be like, oh my gosh, yes, I see what I did. Oh heavens. And they could hit respond again. And they could, and I'm not going to do that for the sake of time here, but they could respond again and they could re-record and fix their error that they had there. So that's what the student experience is like. Let's see from the teacher point of view what I am seeing now. Now, I'll run through all of the gory details about how I created this in a little bit. But what you're going to notice is that on the teacher's screen for the activity, I've got a tab for responses, a tab for insights, and a tab to actually edit the activity itself, as well as some settings and things. We'll get into all of that. Under the responses, and by the way, none of these are real students. These are just people like me and you who have done this, so don't worry about that. But up here under responses, I'm seeing all of the people that Snorkl considered having gotten this correct. And at the bottom, I'm seeing the ones that Snorkl believes got it incorrect. So here's the one I just did. This is the one I just did 2 minutes ago. So I can come in here and I can click on that as a teacher, and then I could play this back. And so just like the student could, I could play the whole thing back and see exactly what the student was thinking all the way through. And of course, once again, I can see all of the feedback that was provided to the student there as well. So that means I might not have to listen to 125 recordings. Maybe it's a situation where I go, you know what? Snorkl thinks 110 of the students got this correct and 15 got it wrong. Well, I better play back these 15. Those are the ones I need to listen to. I need to see where they're struggling, what went wrong there. In addition to that, there's also an insights tab here. And what this does is it sort of summarizes, like, these are the ones, here's some of your best examples. These are really good ones that explain it well. Here are some of the most common mistakes we're getting. Subtraction errors, incomplete calculations, not having a math response at the end of it. And so this is giving me insight into all of that. All right, so I'm going to pause there. That was a quick example of what it looks like for a student to respond to a question in Snorkel, and for me as an educator to be able to quickly see those responses as well as the insights from them. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create one from scratch just so you see how I created it in the first place. But I am going to pause for just a moment and see if there's anything popping up in the chat that we need to address. I don't think so. I think we're in pretty good shape. Looks like a few more highs going on. People saying hello and hi. Oh, there was a question, and it looks like it has been answered. Is there a time limit on student responses? The limit is 10 minutes. So that is excellent. Appreciate that being shared there. Here, let me put that up on the screen if anybody needs to see that as well. Perfect. All right. Very good. So let me do this. Let me now talk about real quick what it would look like to create an activity. And I'm just going to do a real quick basic one just so you can see the idea behind this. So this is what my home screen looks like in Snorkel. This is, when I log in as a teacher, this is what I see. And of course, there's my class and so forth. Well, a couple of quick things I want to mention here. So I obviously can create, and I will, from scratch, a brand new assignment, but there are thousands of pre-made activities that you can pick from as well. So I don't want anybody to feel like, oh my gosh, I've got to always create an activity. I'm not sure what to create. Actually, Snorkel's got your back there as well. You see there's a spot here that says find an activity. I can also go to the library up here, and that is the Snorkel library. That's what that links to. So either way is fine. If I pop on over to the Snorkel library, you're going to see we have all of these different grade levels and subject areas: math, science, reading and language arts, history and social studies, world languages, general, and on down the line. So many of these. And for any one of these, I can just come in and say, yeah, hey, let's look at, middle school life science. Absolutely. Now inside of that, there's all of these activities related to middle school life science. I can click on any one of these, and it's ready to go. There's the activity. This one is going to be one where we're looking at 3 substances separated from an ocean water sample. Is it living or non-living? So we're doing a living and non-living activity here. Now, I can try it as a student, so I can test it out and see if I like it. But if I like it, awesome. I can just add it to my library. I can assign it to my students, or we can just keep on clicking through and seeing how many of these have been created. There are so many ready to go activities that probably are going to match what you're covering in your class already. And again, that's not just in science. As you can see here, we've got reading and language arts and world languages and history and so much more. So definitely want to give a shout out to that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my library. So I'm going to go to library. I'm going to go to my library. And that is where I'm going to create a new assignment, a new activity here really quick. So I'm going to click on create new, create a new activity. And for this one, I've already pre-typed stuff because I'm not the fastest typist. So I'm just going to put in a title here. This is going to be an activity about second class levers. Let's say it's a science class and we're learning about second class levers or different types of levers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through really quick how easy it is to set up an activity. So I do need to decide what sort of response am I looking for here. I'm going to go with whiteboard recording because that covers so much. It lets the students speak, it lets them type, it lets them draw, it lets them handwrite. I could do just whiteboard, I could do just audio, I could do just screencast, just writing. I mean, don't worry, you don't have to have the whiteboard. You could just do audio, and the students literally just speak. That's it. They just speak. They just explain their understanding. Not everything needs a whiteboard, but it's fine to have that whiteboard as well. Maybe some students prefer to also be able to demonstrate things that way. For this example, though, I'm going to go with whiteboard. Next up, I need to put in the question that I'm going to have the students responding to here. So I'm going to come here and say I want to add a question, and I'll just use the text box here to put in my question, draw an example of a second class lever and explain what it is, then explain which part of the item is the fulcrum, which part of the item is the load, and which part of the item is where the effort is applied. So there is my question. I'll hit done editing. So that has now been added onto the whiteboard so they can draw their first class lever and they can, can label that. The instructions, In this case, it would be the same, but I'll just go ahead and put those in there. Of course, I could put something different in there, maybe explain how many minutes I want them to spend or so forth. And then that's the question that I created. Next, how about the AI feedback? Now, this is kind of clever here. You could go two ways. I could have Snorkl generate what all the feedback settings should be just based on what this problem is up here. And it's usually really good at figuring that out. Or I can set it up manually as well. Now, I can also edit it after it does it. So just to show you, I'll go ahead and let it generate it from the question, but you could do this completely manually. I may override some of these things anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and say generate from the question. And so it's looking at that question there, and it is coming up with what it believes would be the best feedback settings for that. Now, once again, like I said, afterwards, we can go in, we can change the grade level, we can change all sorts of things. It's saying, I think this is probably middle school science, and I think this is what we're looking for our response. I'm going to hit confirm on this just to drop that in, and you'll see that this is what I would have filled out if I had done this manually. And you still can go in and make changes here. So for example, how about the feedback? This is a question that comes up a lot of times. Do the students always have to get feedback automatically? What if it's a situation where you don't want them to get the feedback right away? Well, that is the default setting here, but there's an option for teacher approve. So the AI is going to generate the feedback. The teacher's going to see the feedback, but the students aren't until you approve the feedback. Or there's the off option. Maybe you just want to use this to collect students' recordings and you don't want the AI to be giving feedback to the students at all. That is fine as well. I'm leaving this one on auto approve. Obviously, here we pick the subject areas, we pick the grade levels as well, from lower elementary all the way through college. I am going to leave this on science, but I want to show you really quick. If you do pick other things like world languages, for example, you actually get another drop down, which is what language is required for the student to speak in. So if they're learning Spanish, you can basically say, this is world language. You must speak Spanish. It is expected of you to speak Spanish here. Or if this was an English language learner, you could choose world languages and then choose English. And that way they have to speak English to practice that as well as what level they are in there. So, I mean, most of these are not going to have those different options there, as you can see, but the world language one does. Now, this one is science, so I'll leave it on there. Here again is our prompt. And then this is a really key piece. This is the criteria. What are we looking for in the response? So when the student gives a response, this is the guidance telling Snorkl how to grade that. Now, again, you can change this. You can add your own in there. Please do. Absolutely. But it does a really good job basically saying, yeah, they need to draw a second class lever. They need to be able to identify these three different things. They need to explain how it works, et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty good. If I wanted to, I certainly could edit that. Now, in addition to that, there are a few more options down here at the bottom. For example, the AI feedback language, probably the student's default language makes sense. And then here we have, do you want to show whether the answer was correct or incorrect? And then how many, and also the score, what score you got. In my case, it was correct, incorrect, and 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. You can decide if you, the teacher, sees that or if the students see it as well. So those options are down there below. Now, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much setting up that problem there. Let's say that's good, that I like that. I can now come up here and assign that. I can decide what class I want to assign that to. So got to remember which. I've got a couple of different classes. Is it my sample or my demo class? Let me remind myself. It's my sample class. Okay, that's the one. I really do need to rename these a little bit better, but there we go. And you can assign it to multiple classes as well. That wouldn't have hurt if I had done that. All right. Now at this point, I do have some settings, and I can go back in and change these later as well. They're in a little settings box in there. But I can decide, do I want to give students access to accessibility settings in there. The whiteboard read aloud, the whiteboard translate. If I'm using the premium version, do I want to turn on Snorkl Coach? Now, if you're using the free version, you won't have access to Snorkl Coach, but that's the one that assists them during answering the question. It will not do the work for them, but it helps them think through the process. Do I want to have a scheduled start and due date? Do I want to allow guest logins? Do they have to log in with a Google or Microsoft account, or can they just use a guest login? It's best if they log in with an account like Google or Microsoft, because then you can do longitudinal tracking of the student's work. Guest obviously would not allow that. And then collaboration. This is a really clever one too. Do you want to allow students to see each other's responses? So you could say, yeah, after you turn in yours, you can now listen to your peers. Or no, you can only listen to the ones that are marked as the exemplars, the top responses. Or no, you're not going to be able to see that. Also, can students leave comments for each other as well? So those are all options you can decide to turn on or off. Hit assign, and there we go. That has now been created. And that's pretty much it. At this point, there's nothing here to view, so nothing's been done. There's no insights yet. I can always go to the edit screen though, and I can always change things if I need to. I could come in here and say, you know what, I think I want to go in and swap something out, change the criteria a little bit, or go back down to the bottom and change what the students are allowed to see, or go up to the settings gear in the top right and say, you know what, I think I am going to turn on that collaboration option. I think I wanted that on, or whatever the case might be. So you can always go in and edit those things. And then lastly, we're back to where we started. At this point, here's that share button. I can easily copy that link. I can drop that in whatever LMS I'm using. If the students are already a member of my class, it's going to show up in the class anyway, but this is an easy way to be able to go in, copy that link, and then give it to my students. All right, well, there we go. I'm going to pause there because that's been a lot to dump on you. But basically, I wanted to show you the mechanics, the bells and whistles, the things, the way it works. And hopefully, everybody has a reasonable comfort level with that. Now, what we're going to do here very quickly is turn this over to Megan and give her a chance to share. So what does this look like? Day in, day out, actually doing this with students. I am no longer in the classroom. It's been many years since I've been in the classroom. Megan's in there every day. She was in the classroom today. And so she's going to help with that. Having said that, John and Megan, did you see anything popping up while I was rambling on there? Did something pop up that we should address real quick? Anything in the chat that you saw?
Yeah, so I actually saw a comment from Pedro that asked about he said he's experimented with Snorkl a bit, and is the wrong slash the correct, incorrect, and then the 3 and 4 feedback format also available for speaking or written responses. And so that's actually one of the responses, or that's one of the examples I'm going to show from my own classroom. Let
Excellent.
me go to share and I could jump right
All right.
in.
So we'll do that. So Megan will get her screen shared and I'll get her added to the stage here. And I'm going to remove mine off of the stage. We'll give her a chance to share and we'll see that.
So here we go is actually one of my history snorkels. I decided to launch this, and we're ancient world history. Just wrapped up the Fertile Crescent, learning about some of the rulers of ancient Mesopotamia. And so I created a quick Snorkl quiz. I'll show you on the back end what it looked like, which was choose your own emperor. This one is just a writing activity. So students are just showing their responses or they're just responding via typing. They're not actually recording their voices or anything. And my prompt was, which Fertile Crescent leader do you believe was the most effective? They had to choose between Sargon the Builder, Hammurabi, Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus the Great, or Darius. They had to use the race strategy. And then I wanted specifically them to cite 2 pieces of text evidence. It's something that we're working on. And so you see here are the instructions. I actually always generate my AI feedback, or always generate my feedback from AI, and then I will go in on the back end and check and make sure everything looks how I want it to. And so for me, it was super important for the answer criteria not to just restate the question by naming, but I wanted them to clearly position a statement as to which leader, because I was making this not just for social studies, but I also wanted to give them some reps when it comes to writing for argument or supporting their argument. And you'll see in like real time, it gives them that exact feedback. It gives the correct, give the 3 or 4, or gave them a 3 out of 4. But it also lets me know that this student was able to use Snorkl Coach. And one of my favorite things about Snorkl Coach, or Snorkl in general, is that anytime my students are interacting with the AI, I am able to see those responses in real time as they're doing it, as I'm circulating the classroom or paying attention on GoGuardian. But if I'm not able to check every single student's in live, I'm able to always see what they did in Snorkl on the back end. So after receiving the feedback, student went in, just like Eric had showed, and was able to score that 4. For me, I have seen my students' desire to get a 4 tremendously increase every year. This is actually my second year using Snorkl in my classroom. My teammate Deanna introduced me to Snorkl last year. She was like, "Hey, I went to this webinar and it's this cool ed tech AI platform. I think we should try it." I never recommend teachers doing it how I did it the first time, which was I was like, "Oh yeah, this looks cool." Pop the link into Google Classroom because Snorkl works with every LMS. All you need to do is drop the link and have a place to post it. But I posted it in Google Classroom and didn't quite set up my students for success the first time. However, this year in the rollout, my students are they're used to using Snorkl. And so they are always trying to go for 4, where I'm trying to tell them to go for green. A 3 shows mastery, a 4 or 3 shows for proficiency and mastery. But I have seen them endlessly try to get that 4. But for me, I love it because this is what we want to see them do, not just because it's a test or because of standardized testing, but we want to see them really have that productive struggle. Snorkl works like this is an example for history, but Snorkl works seamlessly with math. And one of the biggest areas of leverage that I have used Snorkl for is reaching my multilingual learners. Here's an example of one of my multilingual learners. As you can see, feedback is in his native language, which is Chinese. And so let me play this in real time and show you how I'm able to see and reach my multilingual learners without them having to worry about translating into English. They're able to freely show me what they know in their native language, and I'm able to hear what they know without having the issue of translation or a language barrier. Let me press play. Let me refresh. Hold on. There we go.
7乘以3加5等于3加5 15减10等于5乘以3减2
So for my scholar, all of his feedback is in Chinese, simplified Chinese. He's able to speak in Chinese and not have to worry about trying to do the translating of this problem into English. But I'm able to then hear what he's able to say in Chinese, read it in real time based on the English translation. And then the same thing with the feedback. The feedback for him.
你在第二个问题上做得很好，你正确的计算出15加15，并且找。
But for me, I'm able to read the feedback in English and see exactly what it is that the AI was giving him his glow, but then also what was his grow. And then 5th response, scored that 4 out of 4.
7乘以3加5等于3乘7加上5乘7 3乘7等于21 5乘7等于35的
He's able to talk in his native language, and I'm able to read it in English.
我分别说第一题的框框3乘7。
And this is not just for my Mandarin speakers, but this is also for my Portuguese speaker. This is also for my Arabic speaker. This is for my any student that I need to close that transactional language barrier with. Snorkl helps me do that on a daily basis.
That is fantastic. It's just amazing. A couple of neat things. And I know you've probably got lots more to share, but some things have been popping in my mind. A lot of times when I share Snorkl, I'm not in the classroom. So I'm talking about just the incredible benefit of being able to have students put things in their own words and get that immediate feedback, and to know that it really was the student and they weren't just, using AI to, write something for them. What I love that you have illustrated here, a couple things. One is the ability to have students redo the problem. And again, obviously I know that I showed that as well, that it can be done, but to see you share that is what gets me so excited, that we're talking about assessment, but it's not like just a one and done. Like, okay, that was it. You did your problem. That's the grade you got. We're done. That's it. No, this is about formative assessment. This is about reteaching. This is about allowing students to try again, to take personalized feedback in time, not 24 hours from now when you get a chance to grade it and get it back to them right now.
However, like there's no distance between them being able to get feedback on their learning and then immediately take that feedback.
That's amazing. I love seeing that actually happening there. And the fact that you mentioned how motivated they are to go back and improve it. And again, notice when it gave the feedback, it didn't just say, like in my example, I made that mistake on purpose. It didn't just say, hey, this was the correct answer. It said, you really should take a look at this again. And so now they're like, oh yeah. And so they know what to do to go back, but it's still not doing it for them. I absolutely love that. And I also love how you showed that, no, it's not always just spoken. I know that's how Snorkl started out. And that was sort of, the thing that was really exciting about it as well. But you gave it a good example there where it was just typed. It was just a typed response and no speaking at all. You have to be that.
Amazing. Like the writing feedback is great too.
Absolutely.
And so when I originally started with Snorkl, like I originally started with math. I'm going to show, you're going to love this example because this is one of those, like this is my real classroom. You're going to hear a real student, and then we're going to see the change. But Tina asked something. She said, were my students initially shy? So Tina, remember when I said I didn't roll it out right? The majority of my students, and I have a class of 32. So the majority of my students, my first year doing Snorkl, my very first Snorkl, scored 1s or 2s because they would not record. Like they were like, nope, I'm not doing it. What changed that? Now, again, this year was a much better rollout. Like we did a practice Snorkl activity. It was very low stakes. We talked about the importance of, like, they were ready to go. But let's go back to the class of 2025. I would say for the first month going Snorkl, it was like dividers had to be up, earphones were in, people were begging to go to flexible seating or like crouching in corners with their Chromebooks trying to whisper. And by December, I'm like, wait, hold on, you guys. No, wait, hold on, like relax, because they were so used to it. Like they were used to talking, they're used to explaining it. When I tell you kids are begging for Snorkls, and I'm not saying like they're waking up in the morning like, yes, I get to do a Snorkl. But if we're going to do an assessment, if it's not a Snorkl, it's going to be an issue. Like, why? Mrs. Mitchell, wait, but can we do the Snorkl before we do? But because they love the ability to have the opportunity to show what they know, get feedback, and then continue to show what they know. And this next example, to give a little feedback or to give a little backstory, is from a student who told me on the very first day of school that the only reason why she ever was going to need math was only with the calculator to count her money. Like she did not do math.
That's fantastic.
And it would, and I'm not going to say that every single time she was going to go for the 4, but this is one of my favorite examples because this is towards the end of trimester 2. So let's say this is actually, I can probably find the date. And I was watching her in real time. And so I want to play you her first response, which was correct. And this is the beauty of Snorkls. Her first response was correct. But this is a constructive response problem. And so on the CASP, which is the California's we're a Common Core state. That's our standardized test, our big testing in May. You can get the computation correct, but if you are not able to articulate or explain your reasoning, you're not going to show proficiency, like you're just not. And so I wanted this problem because I knew that there was going to be multi-layered, and just the rigor, like when we look in the TEs and we see those mathematical practices and it's talking about persevere and we ignore those, Snorkl helps us not to ignore that because it's already embedded in the activities based on the fact that students have to explain their thinking. So here, I'm just going to show you the magic. Let me refresh.
When looking at the graph, I see that we were going by 5, 10, 15, 20. So I look down at 2 and count 2, 4, 6, 8. I then look at the graph and I see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 is on there. So it makes sense why I got my answer 2, 4, 6, 8. So I look to the graph and I graph 2 to 5 because 5 to 2 is on the chart. I look to 4 to 10, 6 to 15. 8 to 20, and then I got my answer.
So remember I said real time, made the choice in flexible seating to sit next to her bestie. So you heard the little giggle at the end. But when the giggling stopped was when they decided to generate their feedback together, and one got correct 4 out of 4, and then the other one got correct 2 out of 4. And that's when the race we call it go for green, but that's when the race for the 4 came along. So you see 12 responses.
Those are 12 responses.
12
really?
responses. But I mean, the thing is that they're about 34 seconds a piece. And
I love it.
That generates within like 20 seconds. And so during an assessment block, like, yeah, she recorded 12 times, but these are less than a minute recordings. Before I get to number 12, let's go to number 8, because number 8 was better. And I want you to see the difference already, because the standard that I was testing was generating equivalent expressions with ratios and proportions. And so what was missing from the original response was several things. One, in 6th grade, I need you to connect your ordered pairs on a line. Like we are showing a pattern here. I also need you to identify the X and the Y axis on your data table. And you need a little bit of an explanation. So here was her 3. We see that she labeled the X and the Y. We see that we have a little bit of a line, and we have a small explanation up here. So just hear the difference between 8 minutes between her first response and this response.
The pattern for cups of plain yogurt and cups of sour cream is 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, and so on. Whatever you have to do to the top, you have to always do to the bottom. So since the table already gave us 5 to 2, I go down to the graph and I see 5 does go to 2. So I go back up, I do 2 plus 2, and I get 4. So 10 goes to 4. So I go back down to the graph, and I go to 4. So I graph it, and I keep adding, and 15 goes to 6, 20 goes to 8. So I connected it all on my graph, and I got 2, 4, 6, 8 for cups of plain yogurt.
Tremendous difference. But the AI did not fail me, because what she's still not mentioning is the fact that the ratio of 5 to 2, 5 cups of sour cream to 2 cups of yogurt is equivalent to 10 to 4, 15 to 6, 20 to 8. And so the AI gave her the good feedback.
I notice you found a pattern to solve this problem. While your answers are correct, can you explain why adding 2 to the yogurt amount works each time? How does this connect to the original ratio of 5:2? Great insight about keeping the relationship consistent between top and bottom numbers. This shows you understand that ratios must stay equivalent. Nice job being thorough with your graphing process, plotting each point and connecting them with a straight line. This clearly shows the relationship between the two ingredients.
So again, right, it's giving the reminder we want to focus on the relationship between the two ingredients. And even though it is still giving her the 3, it's reminding her, like, while your answers are correct, can you explain why we are adding 2 to the original amount? How does this connect to the original ratio of 5:2? And so by the time we got to response number 12, we have a longer response, a more thorough answer, and then the 4 response.
When solving the graph, you have to look at the graph's top numbers to find a pattern. The pattern found is 5 times 2, 5 times 3, and 5 times 4, which is 5, 10, 15, and 20. Whatever you have to do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So you would do 2 times 2, 2 times 3, and 2 times 4, which is 2, 4, 6, and 8. This shows that for every 5 cups of sour cream, there is 2 cups of plain yogurt, which can also help us find the ratio 5/2. The cups of sour cream would be X and the cups of plain yogurt would be Y. This is how you would plot them on the coordinate grid.
This is coming from the student who was only going to use a calculator to count her money.
That is fantastic. I mean, to be able to motivate students. I mean, this is what we want. We want students to persevere, to have a growth mindset. Somebody had mentioned that in there in the comments. What a way to iterate and build growth mindset. Absolutely, this is what we want to see. Is not just a one and done thing, but constantly trying to improve. Okay, a couple of quick things. I know we are getting close to the end of our hour. Not that we have to stop at an hour. We don't have to. Just, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I don't want Megan or John to have to stay longer than they are intending to. I can be here all night, but there's a couple of things that I definitely want to say. We have had a few questions come in that I think we will want to probably address. And then Megan, if you got other things to share, absolutely, please do. There was a question about student data privacy. So I just want to make sure that's on John's radar. That's probably something John may want to reply to. There was also a question about when it comes to drawing. Can that be a challenge if they have trackpads on a Chromebook? Like earlier today, I was using my mouse to do my examples there. Maybe some students have a touch screen, but what if they don't? What if it's just a trackpad? So I don't know between those two, how you guys want to answer those, but I think those are pretty important questions.
Well, I can answer both because my school district has a premium license for Snorkl. And so one of the reasons why we got that premium license is because Snorkl is IKEEP certified and Common Sense Privacy certified. They work with districts all over the country, including several, in California and Texas. And so the thing is that they are happy to sign data privacy agreements with districts. They never train AI on student data. Snorkl checks all the boxes when it comes to being whitelisted for districts. And then my students are on regular Chromebooks, not touch screens. We don't use mice a lot because they tend to break them often. And so they're using their trackpad, and we haven't had any issues with drawing. The previous one where you saw where my scholar is a multilingual learner, that was the drawing on the whiteboard was done, and same with my last example, was done on trackpads with basic generic Chromebooks. Ain't nothing fancy happening in room 404.
Hey, that's great. And then John, did you want to add anything to about the data privacy or anything like that?
No, Megan did a great job, and I don't know if I've ever been so quiet on a webinar before, but I was really grateful to both of you for sharing so much from your rich experiences, especially in the classroom, Megan. But if there are any other questions about data privacy or anything about what was shared tonight or the platform, folks can feel free to reach out to either support@snorkl.app, or they can reach out to me personally, john@snorkl.app.
So as we are starting to pull things together, a couple of quick things. And Megan, if you've got a few more things to share, please, I would love for you to do so.
It's just the last time that we're going to do real time so people can see the magic from the future end.
The one thing I was going to mention, and I don't know unless this is an example of that, is that this also can be used for like reading fluency. And I don't know if you have any examples of that. If not, no worries. I just wanted to get that out there, that we haven't shown that as an example, but that it can be a situation where the question is, here's a passage we want you to read, and the student literally reads the passage, and Snorkl is helping to look for skipped words or incorrect words or things like that. And so this can also assist with tracking reading fluency, which I think is phenomenal.
Absolutely. I don't have any examples.
No worries. Just wanted to mention that. Yeah.
I don't have any examples because typically that's done in the lower primary element.
Sure. Yeah.
But I do know that many primary teachers, especially my district, have been using it for reading fluency. And some of them have even done really cute things with trying to help their learners understand like main idea and key details by like posting a picture and saying like, give me one main idea about this picture and then tell me 3 key details, but it's all using their voice, because we know our little learners are still learning their alphabets and how to put words or letters together to make words. But Snorkl is something, and I love, you guys are going to see a Snorkl activity that I just did with my students yesterday. Had never done it before, but I think one of the most powerful things for me with Snorkl is because it's a tool, I think of Snorkl like a hammer, right? A hammer is a tool that can do anything. You can hammer a nail, simple, right? But you also can build an entire house. I keep unlocking things that I can do with Snorkl. And so Josie in the Edu Protocols community, she posted a couple of weeks ago a 3 times point of view Edu Protocols template. And she did it for ancient Egypt, where it was like you had to have you needed to select 3 different members of the Egyptian social class, and there was like an incident or a prompt, and then you had to respond based from you had to write your response based off of that social class member's point of view. And I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is, yes, it's for history, and I'm definitely going to use that when I get to ancient Egypt. But I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be so great to do or to try with a novel. So we're reading the novel Restart by Gordon Corman. I went on Canva, created this little thing, this template on Canva, literally just uploaded it to the whiteboard or uploaded the picture to the whiteboard, kind of played around with the AI. And so I have not actually looked at the feedback, haven't generated anything. So we're going to see this all together so that I can know what I need to work on with the reteach with my scholars. So we're going to go with this and see what it is telling me. Okay. And I have for like, I'm going to analyze this deeper later, but I'm like, I have 32 students in my class. So
looks like a lot of them had strong understanding. That is great.
Yeah, so it's like 22 scored. Strong understanding typically is a 3 or a 4. So 22 out of 32 did well. But now I know like Sable Salamander, weak textual support. Student follows the prompt structure, but only offers general reasoning without citing specific events. Okay, so that's detail. Plot misunderstandings. Instruction missteps, missing clear stance, incomplete reasons. So this helps me when I'm going to pull small groups for writing, or when we're doing writing conferences. I have hidden my students' names, obviously for privacy reasons, because this is going out live. But tonight, when we log off, I'm going to switch this back, and then I'm going to know what my writing groups are going to look like for the next week. And this is all from one Snorkl.
That's fantastic. Yeah, somebody had just asked about, how do you generate the fun nicknames? So it sounds like that's not one I have played around with before, switching up
No.
the names. So
So this is like, there are times when, if it's a writing activity like
yeah,
this, I will show this to my students. And so what it does is one of the, here, let me go back to the screen. So when you look under the settings for
I
feedback,
gotcha.
you
Yeah,
show student names or hide them. So I
perfect.
am hiding them
That's
just
it.
for this.
You just switch that off. I love it. Hey, I learned something new. I didn't know that button was there. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, tell you what, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my screen back up here.
Okay.
And we're going to start landing the plane now. So this is our last call for questions, comments. If anybody wants to drop something in the chat, please go ahead and still squeeze in a couple more. We are happy to take your questions while we can. It looks like we have addressed pretty much everything, I believe everything that had come up. But what I want to do as I start to wrap this up is, of course, once again, thank so much, John and Megan, for being here, to thank everybody who has joined us tonight. And you know what? Everybody who's watching the recording for this, because I know we're going to have hundreds or thousands of people watching this in the weeks and months to come. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. This means a lot because in the end, it's about impacting your students and making a difference in their life. And so the time you spent here, I truly believe it's going to have great impact on you and your students. But what you got to do is head over to snorkl.app, sign up for an account there so that you can start using this tool. And if you want to learn more, we also have the Snorkl certification, which is at certification.snorkl.app. I actually did this myself. I've been using Snorkl for years, and I have not myself actually done the certification. And so I went ahead and did that earlier today. And I'll tell you, it is an amazing certification course. It's
It
going to
makes
cover
such a
so
difference.
many important things. And so I absolutely encourage you to try that. And then also, if you need more help, there's help.snorkl.app. And I was kind of trying to find it, see if I can find it quick enough here. I might not be able to, but if I can, I have a QR code here. Let me see if I can. I meant to do this during our chatting here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And I'll drop it over here. A QR code. And John, do you want to explain what folks are going to get with this QR code?
Yeah, if you scan this QR code right now, it will give you premium access through the end of this school year. So until July this coming summer.
That's phenomenal. So they'll have access to things like the Snorkl Coach and those additional features, and they won't have a limit on how many 20 active assignments at once. Having said that, though, my gosh, what's free is astounding. So that all the things we were showing tonight, these are things you can do for free with your students. All right. Well, John, make anything you have to say as we wrap up here?
No, huge thank you to both of you. Huge thank you to everyone who jumped in this evening. And please feel free to reach out and be in touch. We're happy to support you and get you started with snorkeling. And it's a lot of fun to walk into a classroom and see 30 kids talking through and explaining their thinking. And that's just really rich, deep engagement. And so it's a pleasure to support that and excited for all of you.
Right. All right. Well, guys, thanks again so much. And please do stay in touch with me as well. Control-Alt-Achieves, where I share out all of my stuff. I look forward to keep learning with you. Thanks again to everybody for being a part of this tonight. Take care, everyone.